Greetings, Paul here. So in this video, we'll be talking about some interesting differences between dark roasts and light roasts. Starting off with the first one is that roast level does not impact the caffeine level. We know that caffeine is supposed to taste bitter, but how much of the bitterness is actually contributed by the caffeine level in dark roasts? There's a study showing that around 15% of the bitterness in coffee comes from caffeine. The remaining 85%, well, it actually comes from the roast level. So the darker the roast, the more charred, burnt, and bitter tasting your coffee will be. The second misconception is that lighter roasts have more caffeine because they are more dense and smaller in size. The reason why dark roasts are lighter and also bigger in size is that as you roast a bean, they lose moisture, making them lighter. They also expand and crack, becoming bigger in size. Now, if you measure your coffee beans with a scoop, then this would matter. This would mean that you would actually get more coffee beans that are a lighter roast in the scoop compared to a darker roast. Now, if you measure your beans with a scale, then you would not have that issue and the caffeine level would be the same between dark roasts and light roasts. The third aspect is that not all coffee beans have the same amount of caffeine. Did you know that the Robusta bean has around 30% more caffeine than the Arabica bean? So make sure you don't compare apples to oranges when you look at the amount of caffeine you find in roast levels. The second thing you need to know about roast levels is that the darker you roast, the more brittle the bean becomes. Here's an example of me roasting the same bean and removing multiple roast levels and then checking it for brittleness. I'm using this 5 kilo weight to crush each bean to just see how many fines come out of each bean. And looking at the result over here, you can see that the lighter roasted beans don't have as many fines as the darker roasted beans. What this means is that when you grind at a coarser setting, you will have more fines if the roast is a darker roast. So when I brew my darker roasts, I actually like to grind it a bit finer. This allows for the average grind size to be closer together. And to counteract the finer grind setting, you can do other things to the extraction, like use cooler water. You can limit the time or maybe change the ratio to make a balanced extraction. The last point is that a darker roast tries to highlight the burnt, charred, and bitterness that comes along with the roasting process. In comparison, a lighter roast tries to highlight the natural tastes of the coffee bean. Now, one is not better than the other. However, it's important to know both sides of the spectrum to really see what you enjoy in your cup of coffee. I hope you've learned something new about roasting levels and coffee. If you have, to hit that like button. If you like the content, feel free to subscribe and also check out my Instagram right over here. That's pretty much it for this video. Peace.